Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome to another Temple 420 Bible study. This time it's Bible study number 29, and we're starting into Leviticus and going through how God said to set up things in the temple. Sounds like, again, starting off with the burnt offering and more things there. This invite sent off to a few more people, so a few more people might join us here. We'll see how this goes. But first of all, I will start off here with a prayer. Dear Almighty Living God, Hashem, Yahuwah, thank you for the things you've done for us. Thank you for those that you brought before us and gave us information on the things that we do here. Thank you for all that you do and the word that you give us so that we may know what you put forth and we can follow you. May those who watch have interest in your word and understanding. Thank you for what you give us and help us through this Bible study. I'm going to turn off notifications so they're not dinging us the whole time there. There we go. We finished up with Exodus last week. So anybody who's interested in seeing Exodus or Genesis, we have those in the log and you can come by and visit as we've got those and check them out in YouTube as well as Rumble. And then actually there's a podcast on YouTube. Our Saturday sessions also have a podcast on Spotify if you're interested on those. That's when we sit down with various people, often me and Craig X, founder of Temple 420, and discuss things going through the week, discuss Bible highlights that we ran into, various aspects of life, and pretty much session out and have a great time. And the first one here in Leviticus 1:1 is the discussion of the burnt offerings. I want to change over here to the Kodesh scriptures. The scriptures that are based off the Dead Sea Scroll has God's name restored as Yahuwah, which is another pronunciation that you could do, the YHWH, as sometimes it's Yahweh, sometimes it's Yahuwah. Various, depends on who translates it. I think Yahuwah sounds like a great one, and I really like how it approaches it. And whenever it goes to it, it rightfully calls him the master because he's the master of everything here. Leviticus 1:1, the master Yahuwah called to Moses and spoke to him in front of the tent of meeting, saying, "Speak to the people of Israel and tell them, when any man from among you brings an offering to the master Yahuwah, bring as your offering one of the animals, either from the herd or from the flock. If the offering is a burnt offering from the herd, he must offer a male without blemish. He is to offer it at the entrance of the tent of meeting, so it can be accepted before the master Yahuwah. He is to lay his hand on the head of the burnt offering, and then it will be accepted on his behalf to make atonement for himself. Then he must kill the bull before the master Yahuwah. Aaron's son, the priest, will present the blood and sprinkle it on the altar at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Then he must skin the burnt offering and cut it into pieces. Then the sons of Aaron, the priest, will put the fire on the altar and place the wood to feed the fire. Aaron's son, the priests, are to place the pieces, the head, and the fat in order to the wood that is on the fire, which is the altar. But the inner parts and the legs must wash with water, and the priest will burn everything on the altar as a burnt offering. It will produce a sweet aroma for me, and it'll be an offering made to me by fire. Another one where we've got Yahuwah, Yahweh, being the one to present the first barbecue, is what I always like to say with that. He finds it a great sweet aroma. So that said, I'm in Kansas City myself, one of the barbecue capitals of the world. So that's what that really reminds me of every time I hear it. If this offering is from the flock, one of the sheep or one of the goats, he must offer a male without blemish. He must kill it on the north side of the altar before the Master Yahuwah. Aaron's sons, the priest, will sprinkle blood on every side of the altar. Then he must cut it into pieces with its head and its fat, and the priest will lay them in order on the wood that is fire, which is on the altar. But the inner parts and legs must wash with water, and then the priest will offer the whole and burn it on the altar. It is the burnt offering and will produce a sweet aroma for the Master Yahuwah. It'll be an offering made to him by fire. If his offering to the Master Yahuwah is to be a burnt offering of birds, then he must offer his offering as a dove or a young pigeon. The priest must bring it to the altar, wring off its head, and burn it on the altar. Then its blood must be drained out the side of the altar, and he must prop with its contents and throw it beside the altar in the east side and the place of the ashes. He must tear it open by its wings and must not divide it into parts. Then the priest will burn it on the altar in the wood that is on the fire. It'll be a burnt offering, and it'll produce a sweet aroma for the Master Yahuwah. It'll be an offering made to him by fire. Laws of the grain offerings. When anyone brings a grain offering to the Master Yahuwah, his offering must be of fine flour. He'll pour oil on it and put incense on it. He is to take the offering to Aaron's sons of the priests, and there the priest will take out a handful of fine flour with the oil and the incense on it. Then the priest will burn the offering on the altar as a representative offering. It will produce a sweet aroma for the Master Yahuwah, and it'll be an offering made to him by fire. Whatever is left of the grain offering will belong to Aaron and his sons. It is set apart, holy to the Master Yahuwah from the offerings, the Master Yahuwah made by fire. When you offer a grain offering without yeast that is baked in the oven, it must be soft bread of fine flour mixed with oil, and hard bread without yeast, which is spread with oil. If your grain offering is baked with a flat iron pan, it must be a fine flour without yeast that is mixed with oil. You are to divide it into pieces and pour oil on it. This is the grain offering. If your grain offering is cooked in a pan, it must be made with fine flour and oil. You must bring the grain offering made of these things to the Master Yahuwah, and it will be presented to the priest, who will bring it to the altar. Then the priest will take some of the grain offering as a representative offering, and he will burn it on the altar, and it'll be an offering made by fire. It'll produce a sweet aroma for the Master Yahuwah. What is left of the grain offering will belong to Aaron and his sons. It is very set apart, holy to the Master Yahuwah from the offerings, to the Master Yahuwah made by fire. No grain offering that you offer to the Master Yahuwah is to be made with yeast. You must burn no leaven, nor honey, as it is an offering made to the fire by the Master Yahuwah. You must offer them to the Master Yahuwah as an offering of first fruits, but they will not be used to produce a sweet aroma on the altar. You must season each of your grain offerings with salt. You must never allow the salt of the covenant of your Elohim to be missing from your grain offerings. With all your offerings that you must offer salt. If you offer the grain offering of first fruits to the Master Yahuwah, offer fresh grain that is roasted with fire and then crushed into meal. You must place oil and incense on it. This is the grain offering. Then the priest will burn part of the crushed grain and oil and incense in a representative offering. This is an offering made by fire to the Master Yahuwah. Some of the things I see here is prior, when we were doing the blood offering, the blood had to be sprinkled onto the altar. That seems to me a representation of Christ, because he was the final blood offering of that, or the blood atonement must be made in order to resolve sins, and Christ does his blood offering for that. If you've seen some of our prior episodes, we have a short for it. Ron Wyatt thinks that even when Christ was crucified on the cross, that the altar was actually hidden under the hill of the skull, and that his blood was also sprinkled on that as the final offering. When they get into this grain offering and they're making it into bread, I see it continuously says that it should be made without yeast. Later, when you look in the Bible, yeast is the representative for sin. It's also, they told them not to use yeast in the bread when they left Egypt because they didn't have time for it to rise, which also represented the sin with that too there, because the sin makes people puff up and gives issues with those kind of things. And when you don't have time for that, you leave for Christ and you go off there. There's no yeast should be in that. No sin should be in those. You also must offer your grain offering with salt. To me, that also is fitting too, because as mankind, we're called to be the salt of the earth. So it sounds like it's representing us as part of this grain offering that we're offering in order for the representative offering. He is our representative. Laws for the peace offering. If someone offers a sacrifice, which is a fellowship offering of an animal from the herd, whether male or female, he must offer an animal without blemish before the Master Yahuwah. I did say that earlier too. That's one of the important things that connects back with Christ too. As he was the perfect sacrifice, he was without sin. He didn't have any blemishes. He will lay his hand on the head of his offering and kill it at the tent of the door of the meeting. Then Aaron's son, the priest, will sprinkle its blood on the side of the altar. The man will offer the sacrifice of a fellowship offering by fire to the Master Yahuwah, and the fat that covers or is connected to the inner parts, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them by the loins, and the lobe of the liver with the kidneys. He will remove all of this. Aaron's son will burn that on the altar with the burnt offering, which is on the wood that is on the fire. This will produce a sweet aroma for the Master Yahuwah. It'll be an offering made to him by fire. If a man's sacrifice of a fellowship offering to the Master Yahuwah is from the flock, a male or female, he must offer the sacrifice without blemish. If he offers a lamb for a sacrifice, then he must offer it before the Master Yahuwah, and he will lay his hand on the head of the sacrifice and kill it before the tent of the meeting. Then Aaron's sons will sprinkle the blood on the sides of the altar. The man will offer the sacrifice of the fellowship offerings as an offering made by fire to the Master Yahuwah. The fat of the entire fat tail cut away close to the backbone, and the fat that covers the inner parts, and all the fat that is near the inner parts. That's 310. And the two kidneys and the fat that is with them, which is the loins and the lobe of the liver and the kidneys, he will remove all of this. Then the priest will burn it on the altar as a burnt offering of food to the Master Yahuwah. It does say often there too that God likes the fat offering, that the fat is for him. So it always goes, and that the fat is not to be kept for anybody else, but is to be burnt. If the man's offering is a goat, then he'll offer it before the Master Yahuwah. He must lay his hand on the head of the goat and kill it before the tent of the meeting. And Aaron's son will sprinkle the blood on the sides of the altar, and the man will offer a sacrifice by the fire to the Master Yahuwah. He'll remove the fat that covers the inner parts and the fat near the outer parts. He'll also remove the two kidneys and the fat that is with them, which is by the loins and the lobe of the liver with the kidneys. The priest will burn all that is on the altar as a burnt offering of food to produce a sweet aroma. All the fat belongs to the Master Yahuwah. That's one I refer to quite often too. And he always calls back and says, hey, the fat's a portion to be put for me. This will be a permanent statute through your people for generations in every place that you make your home, that you must not eat the fat or the blood. Which I find interesting. A lot of people like their meat with the fat on it, enjoy that fat, or they like their underdone food. So really interesting to me that that's something that oddly people crave, but that's something that he reserves that fat for himself there. Laws for sin offerings. The Master Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, tell the people of Israel that when anyone sins without wanting to sin, doing any of the things that the Master Yahuwah has commanded not to be done, and if he does something that is prohibited, the following must be done. If it's the high priest that sins as to bring a guilt offering unto the people, let him offer for his sin, which he has committed, a young bull without blemish to the Master Yahuwah as a sin offering. It's interesting to me too that he chose a young bull. As remember the back in Exodus, they made the bull as a idol for them with that. And what I've heard with that is they really saw the power of God as a bull. So to me, calling out the young bull as the sacrifice is an image of Christ there with that too. It's the young bull. He must bring the bull to the entrance of the tent of meeting. The Master Yahuwah lay his hand on its head and kill the bull before the Master Yahuwah. The anointed priest will take some of the blood and take it into the tent of the meeting. The priest will dip his finger into the blood and sprinkle it 7 times before the Master Yahuwah, before the curtain of the most set apart place. That also echoes that back in, because before that curtain of the set apart place is where they actually put I lost my words here with it, with the box that they have the Ark of the Covenant in, the actual Ark. So they put the Ark of the Covenant. It is the Ark that the Covenant is in, and it has those angels on the side, and that's exactly the thing that some people, including Ron Wyatt, say that that's where the blood of Christ was spilled on. when he died for us, it trickled down into that and did that. So that's saying the young bull's blood should be put on that. Then the priest put some of the blood on the horns of the altar of the fragrance incense before the Master Yahuwah, which is in the tent of the meeting. And he'll pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar for the burnt offerings, which is at the entrance of the tent of the meeting. He will cut away all of the fat of the bull for the sin offering, the fat that covers the inner parts and the fat that's attached to the inner parts, the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them, which is by the loins, and the lobe of the liver. With the kidneys, he'll cut away all of this. He will cut it all away, just as he cuts off the bull of the sacrifice and the peace offerings. Then the priest will burn all of these parts on the altar for burnt offerings, the skin of the bull and any remaining meat with its head and its legs and its inner parts and its dung. All of the rest of the parts of the bull, he will carry all of these parts outside the camp in a place that they have cleansed for me, where they pour out the ashes. They will burn those parts there on wood. They must burn those parts where they pour out the ashes. If the whole assembly of Israel sins without wanting to sin, and the assembly is unaware that they have sinned and done any of the things that the Master Yahuwah has commanded them not to be done, and if they are guilty, then the sin that they have committed becomes known. Then the assembly must offer a young bull for sin offering and bring it to the tent of meeting. The elders of the assembly will lay their hands on the head of the bull before the Master Yahuwah, and the bull will be killed before the Master Yahuwah. The anointed priest will bring some of the blood of the bull into the tent of the meeting, and the priest will dip his finger on the blood and sprinkle it 7 times before the Master Yahuwah, before the curtain. Once again, sprinkling it on the ark there that's placed in front of the curtain. Then he will put some of the blood on the horns of the altar that is before the Master Yahuwah, which is in the tent of the meeting, and he will pour out all the blood at the base of the altar for burnt offerings, which is at the entrance of the tent of the meeting. He will cut off all the fat and burn it on the altar. This is what he must do with the bull, just as he did with the bull of the sin offering. So he must do with this bull. And the priest will make atonement for the people, and they will be forgiven. They will carry the bull inside the camp and burn it as he burned the first bull. This is the sin offering for the assembly. When the ruler sins without intending to sin, doing any one of all the things that Master Yahuwah, his Elohim, has commanded not to be done, and he is guilty, then his sin, which is committed and is made known to him, he must bring the sacrifice, a goat, a male without blemish. He will lay his hand on the head of the goat and kill it in the place where they kill the burnt offering before the Master Yahuwah. This is a sin offering. The priest will take the blood of the sin offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar for burnt offerings. He will pour out the blood at the base of the altar for burnt offering. He will burn all of the fat on the altar, just like the fat of the sacrifice of the peace offerings. The priest will make atonement for the ruler concerning his sins, and the ruler will be forgiven. If any one of the common people sins without intending to sin, doing any of the things which the Master Yahuwah has commanded him not to be done, and when he realizes his guilt, then his sin which he's committed is known to him, then he will bring a goat for his sacrifice, a female without blemish, for the sin that he has committed. He will lay his hand on the head of the sin offering and kill the sin offering at the place of the burnt offering. The priest will take some of the blood with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar for the burnt offerings. He will pour out all the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. He will cut away all of the fat, just as the fat is cut away from the sacrifice for the peace offerings. The priest will burn it on the altar to produce a sweet aroma for the Master Yahuwah. The priest will make atonement for the man, and he will be forgiven. If the man brings a lamb as a sacrifice for a sin offering, he will bring a female without blemish. He will lay his hand on the head of the sin offering and kill it for a sin offering at the place of where they killed the burnt offering. The priest will take some of the blood of the sin offering and put it on the horns of the altar for burnt offerings, and he will pour out the blood at the base of the altar. He will cut away the fat, just as the fat of the lamb is cut away from the sacrifice of peace offerings, and the priest will burn it on the altar of the offerings of the Master Yahuwah, made by fire. The priest will make atonement for him and the sin that he has committed, and the man will be forgiven. It's a lot of work. I'm glad that Christ has came and taken over the place of these sin offerings, because that would cost quite a bit of bulls and sheep and doves to be able to find those and do that. If anyone sins because he does not testify when he has witnessed something that he is required to testify, whether he has seen or heard about it, he will be responsible. If anyone touches anything Elohim has designated as unclean, whether it is a carcass of an unclean wild animal, or the carcass of any livestock that has died, or a creeping animal, even if the person didn't intend to touch it, he is unclean and guilty. If he touches the uncleanness of someone, whatever that uncleanness is, and if he is unaware of it, he will be guilty when he learns about it. If anyone swears rashly with his lips to do evil or to do good, whatever it is that a man swears rashly in an oath, even if he is aware of it, when he learns about it, he will be guilty in any of these things. When someone is guilty of these things, he must confess whatever sin he has committed. Then he must bring his guilt offering to the Master Yahuwah for the sin that he has committed. A female animal from the flock, either a lamb or a goat, for a sin offering. And the priest must make atonement for him concerning his sin. If he cannot afford to buy a lamb, then he can bring it as his guilt offering for his sin 2 doves or 2 young pigeons to the Master Yahuwah, one for the sin offering and another for a burnt offering. He must bring them to the priest, who will offer one as the sin offering first. Then he will wring off its head from the neck, but he will not remove it completely from the body. Then he must sprinkle some of the blood from the sin offering on the side of the altar. He will drain the rest of the blood from the base. This is a sin offering. He must offer the second bird as a burnt offering, as described in the instructions, and the priest will make an atonement for him for the sin he has committed, and the person will be forgiven. But if he cannot afford to buy 2 doves or 2 pigeons, then he must bring the sacrifice of 1/10 of ephah of fine flour for a sin offering. He must not put any oil or any incense in it, for it is a sin offering. He must bring it to the priest, and the priest will take a handful of it as a representative offering and burn it on the altar, on top of the offerings made for the Master Yahuwah. This is a sin offering. The priest will make an atonement for any sin a person has committed, and that person will be forgiven. The leftovers from the offering will belong to the priest along with the grain offering. Laws for guilt offerings. Then the Master Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, if anyone violates a command and sins against the things that the Master Yahuwah did show intentionally, he must bring his guilt offering to the Master Yahuwah. This offering must be a ram without blemish from the flock. Its value must be appraised in silver shekels, the shekel of the sanctuary, as it is a guilt offering. He must satisfy the Master Yahuwah with what he has done in connection with what is set apart, holy. He must add 1/5 to it and give it to the priest. The priest will make atonement for him with the ram of the guilt offering, and that person will be forgiven. If anyone sins and does anything that the Master Yahuwah has commanded not to be done, even if he was unaware of it, he is still guilty and must carry his own guilt. He must bring a ram without blemish out of the flock, worth the current value, as the guilt offering to the priest. Then the priest must make atonement for him concerning the sin that he has committed, of which he was unaware, and which he'll be forgiven. It is a guilt offering, and he is certainly guilty before the Master Yahuwah. The Master Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, if anyone sins and breaks a commandment against the Master Yahuwah, such as dealing falsely with his neighbor regarding something entrusted to him, or he cheats or robs him, or has oppressed his neighbor, or has found something that his neighbor lost and lies about it and swears to the lie, or in matters like these which people sin, then it must come about, if he has sinned and is guilty, then he must restore whatever he took by robbery or oppression, and is taking what is entrusted to him, or the lost thing that is found. Or if he lied about it in any manner, he must restore it in full and add 1/5 more to pay him who he is owed on the day that he is found guilty. Then he must bring his guilt offering to the Master Yahuwah, a ram without blemish from the flock that is worth the current value, and as a guilt offering to the priest. The priest will make atonement for him before the Master Yahuwah, and he will be forgiven concerning whatever has become guilty of doing. The priest and the offerings. Then the Master Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, command Aaron and his sons. This is the Torah of the burnt offering. The burnt offering must be on the heart of the altar all night and all morning, and the fire of the altar must keep burning. The priest will put on his linen clothes, and he'll also put on his linen underclothes. He will pick up the ashes that are left in the fire that is consumed the burnt offering on the altar, and he'll put the ashes beside the altar. He will take off his garment and put on other garments to carry the ashes outside the camp to a place that is clean. The fire on the altar will keep burning. It must not go out, and the priest must burn the wood on it every morning. He will arrange the burnt offering as required on it, and he will burn it on the fat of the people's offerings. Fire must be kept burning on the altar continuously. It must not go out. This is the Torah of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron will offer it before the Master Yahuwah, before the altar. The priest will take up a handful of fine flour of the grain offering and of the oil of the incense, which is the grain offering, and he will burn it on the altar to produce a sweet aroma as a representative offering. Aaron and his sons will eat whatever is left of the altar, and it must be eaten without yeast in the set apart holy place. They will eat it in the courtyard of meeting. It must not be baked with yeast. I have given it to given it as their part of my offerings made by fire. It is the most set apart, holy, as it is the sin offering and the guilt offering. For all time has come through your people's generation, and any male descendants of Aaron must eat of it as his share, taken from the offerings of the Master Yahuwah, made by fire. Whoever touches them will become set apart, holy. Also gets me to there that bread being referred to too also reminds me of Christ, because he's the bread. Bread he mentions as well, the bread of life. He atones for us. Leviticus 6:19. So the Master Yahuwah spoke to Moses again, saying, this is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they will offer to the Master Yahuwah on the day when each son is anointed. A 10th part ephah of fine flour as a regular grain offering, half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening. It'll be made with oil in a baking pan. When it is soaked, you'll bring it in baking pieces. You'll offer the grain offering to produce a sweet aroma before the Master Yahuwah. The son of the high priest, who is becoming the new high priest from his sons, will offer it, as commanded forever. All of it shall be burned before the Master Yahuwah. Every grain offering of the priest must be completely burned up. It must not be eaten. The Master Yahuwah spoke to Moses again, saying, speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the Torah of their sin offering. The sin offering must be killed at the place where the burnt offering is killed before the Master Yahuwah. It is set apart, holy. The priest who offers it for sin will eat it, and it must become eaten in a set apart, holy place from the courtyard of the tent of the meeting. Whatever touches its meat shall become set apart and holy. If the blood is sprinkled on any garment, you must wash it. The part that it was sprinkled on in a whole set apart, holy place. But the clay pot which it is boiled must be broken. If the boiled in a bronze pot, it must be scrubbed and rinsed clean in water. Any male among the priests may eat some of it, because it is the most set apart and holy. But any sin offering whose blood is brought in the tent of meeting, make atonement in the set apart holy place, must not be eaten. It must be burned. This is the Torah of the guilt offering. It is the most set apart, holy. They must kill the guilt offering in the place for killing it, and they must sprinkle its blood against the side of the altar. All the fat in it will be offered, the fat tail and the fat that is over the inner parts, the 2 kidneys and the fat on them, which is next to the loins and what covers the liver. With the kidneys, all this must be removed. The priest must burn these parts on the altar as an offering made with fire to the Master Yahuwah. This is a guilt offering. Every male among the priests must eat part of this offering. It must be eaten in a set apart, holy place, because it is set apart, holy. This sin offering is like the guilt offering. The same Torah applies to both of them. They belong to the priest who makes atonement with them. Whenever it mentions Torah here too, it's also referring to the law. These are the laws that he gave and the guidance. And that's really what Torah refers to when people refer to the Torah. It's the book of the laws. The priest who offers anyone's burnt offering may have for himself the hide of that offering. Every grain offering that is baked in an oven, and every such offering that is cooked in a frying pan and a baking pan, will belong to the priest who offers it. This is the Torah of the sacrifice of peace offerings, which the people will offer to the Master Yahuwah. If anyone offers in order to give thanks, then he must offer the sacrifice of cakes made without yeast, mixed with oil, and the cakes without yeast, but spread with oil, and the cakes made with fine flour that is mixed with oil. Also, there's the purpose of giving thanks that he must offer with his peace, offering cakes of bread made with yeast. He is to offer one of each kind of these sacrifices as an offering presented to the Master Yahuwah. It'll belong to the priest to sprinkle the blood offerings into the altar. The person representing the peace offering for the purpose of giving thanks must eat the meat of his offering on the day of the sacrifice. He must not leave any till morning. But if the sacrifice of the offering is for the purpose of a vow or for the purpose of a free will offering, the meat must be eaten on the day that he offers the sacrifice, but whatever remains may be eaten the next day. However, whatever meat of the sacrifice remains on the third day must be burned. If any of the meat of the sacrifice in one's peace offering is eaten on the third day, it will not be accepted, and neither will it be credited to the one who offered it. It'll be a disgusting thing, and the person who eats of it will carry the guilt of his sins. Any meat that touches an unclean thing must not be eaten. It must be burned. For the rest of the meat, anyone who is clean may eat it. However, an unclean person who gets any meat from the sacrifice of a peace offering that belongs to the Master Yahuwah, that person will be cut off from his people. Anyone touches anything unclean, whether the cleanliness of a man or the cleanliness of a beast or some unclean, disgusting thing, then he eats some of the meat of sacrifice offering that belongs to the Master Yahuwah, that person will be cut off from his people. Then the Master Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel and say, you must eat no fat of an ox, a sheep, or a goat. The fat of the animal that died without being sacrificed, or the fat of an animal torn by wild animals. It may be used for other purposes, but you must not certainly eat it. Whoever eats the fat of an animal that men can offer the sacrifice to the Master Yahuwah, that person will be cut off from his people. You must eat no blood whatsoever in your houses, whether there is from a bird or an animal. Whoever eats any blood, that person will be cut off from his people. So the Master Yahuwah spoke with Moses and said, Speak to the people of Israel. He who offers the sacrifice of a peace offering to the Master Yahuwah must bring part of his sacrifice to the Master Yahuwah, and the offering of the Master Yahuwah is to be made of fire. By his own hands he must bring it. He must bring the fat of the breasts, so that the breast may be waved as an offering before the Master Yahuwah. The priest must bring the fat on the altar, but the priest will belong to Aaron and his descendants. You must give the right thigh to the priest as an offering presented before the sacrifice of the peace offerings. The priest, one of Aaron's descendants, who offers the blood of the peace offerings and the fat, he will have the right to his share of the offering. For I have taken from Israel the breast of the waving, and the thigh that's the contribution, and they will have given it to Aaron the priest and his sons of the regular share. This is the share for Aaron and his descendants from the offerings of the Master Yahuwah made by fire. On the day that Moses presented them to serve the Master Yahuwah in the work of the priest. This is the share that the Master Yahuwah commanded to be given to them from the people of Israel on the day that he anointed priests. He will always be their share through generations. This is the Torah of the burnt offering and the grain offering and the sin offering and the guilt offering, of the consecration offering and of the sacrifice of peace offerings, about which the Master Yahuwah gave commands to Moses on Mount Sinai on the day that he commanded the people of Israel to offer their sacrifices to the Master Yahuwah in the wilderness of Sinai. 45 minutes is not too bad with us here. I think that's pretty good. We can get into the consecration of Aaron and his sons next time. There was a whole bunch of repeating of how they're supposed to do those sacrifices, and in those last verses, I think that's really something to improvise, to show how much importance there is to that whenever he repeats things like that. Always watch out for God repeating, because it's something he really wants you to know and pay attention to. Thank you, Almighty Yahuwah, for the blessings you give us, learning into your word and learning what you had to say as the commandments and the sacrifices that we give. Thank you for sending your son, Jesus, for our sacrifice, so we don't have to do all these things and find animals without blemish and try to set everything up like this, that we just need to ask of you and your son, and we can be forgiven and we can continue on with the things that we do. Amen. I hope those that stayed around and hung out here and enjoyed that and got to hear got some more interest in the Bible and continue to read it yourselves, or maybe you'll attend us next week, or anything prior you can check out on our YouTube. Take care. God bless.